Hari Om. Confucius said, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior." A very good afternoon to everyone and distinguished guests. I welcome you all to an exciting afternoon called The Gift. Gita, an inspiring friend to treasure. Indeed, it is a gift for all of us to have had the opportunity to come across the Holy Gita. It does not just teach us what is life, but it also teaches us how to live life. It has helped me personally in developing my life skills, and I'm thankful to Chinmay Mission for introducing this to me in the most lucid manner. Let us come to the topic for today's much awaited panel discussion: a warrior's comeback. Who is a warrior? What does a warrior do? Are we all warriors? Does warrior always mean battlefield? I'm sure we have all these questions in our mind, and I bet we will surely get our questions answered. Today, we have amongst ourselves three stalwarts from different walks of life who will share their experience, via which we will get a lot of our questions answered around a warrior's life. Let me take this opportunity to introduce all of them. We have amongst us Dr. Rajshri Shukla. She's a professor and head of the Department of Hindi in the University of Calcutta. She teaches Hindi literature along with modern poetry in Hindi at her alma mater. She has been the proud recipient of the University Gold Medal both at the graduate and postgraduate level. She's an author, critic, and a translator, and her articles, poems, short stories, and translations have been published in journals of distinction in India and abroad. Dr. Shukla is also an orator par excellence and regularly appears on various talk shows, seminars, etc. She has visited Tokyo University of Foreign Studies on their invite and appeared on acclaimed international radio NHK. She has been awarded with several honors for her academic as well as her social endeavors. She has been a member of the jury for many esteemed literary awards. She's been a supervisor for PhD and MPhil candidates for more than a decade. So welcome, Dr. Rachi Shukla. Moving on,
धन्यवाद.
moving on, we have amongst us Professor Dilip Shah. He's an educator, an academic consultant, and a guide to over two generations of students. He's a corporate advisor to few groups within and outside the city of Kolkata. He has a brilliant background in commerce, law, and management. He has worked on export potential from West Bengal and other such subjects. For the last 35 years, he has taught numerous students at the Bhawanipur Education Society College, and he is the Dean of Student Affairs of the college at present. He is a regular faculty at the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Cost Accountants, and at the Institute of Company Secretaries, besides being a visitor faculty in various institutions. He has been the founder, convener of the youth wing at the prestigious Bharatiya Bhasha Parishad, Kolkata, and has spoken at various associations and colleges in seminars on a wide array of subjects. Earlier, he had been engaged in the corporate circles in different capacities, including being a vice president advisor and director. He believes that we cannot enrich ourselves without enriching others. Welcome, Professor Shah. Now we have amongst us Mrs. Sumita Banerjee. She is PhD in history. The topic was women criminals in 18th and 19th century Bengal. She has written books, textbooks for schools, geography, and English. She has written extensively for newspapers and magazines. She has been associated with education for several years. She's a consultant trainer with the British Council and conducts workshops for teachers and students. She's trained in psychological counseling. Welcome, Mrs. Sumita Banerjee. Without further ado, let me get started and ask Dr. Shukla about her views on today's topic.
नमस्कार. मेरे साथ इस कार्यक्रम में जुड़े हुए बहुत ही सम्मानित पैनलिस्ट्स और कार्यक्रम का मॉडरेशन कर रहे देवोशी रॉय जी, कार्यक्रम के पीछे जिनकी योजना है और जिन्होंने बहुत मन से इसके पीछे काम किया है, नीरव शाह जी, और तकनीकी पक्ष को देख रहे चिन्मय मिशन के सभी सहयोगी। आज का ये विषय एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण विषय है, खास तौर से युवा पीढ़ी के लिए। और हम जिस दिन चर्चा करने बैठे हैं, तो ये जनवरी का पहला सप्ताह है, नए साल की शुरुआत है। और नए साल की ये शुरुआत बड़ी उम्मीदों से भरी हुई है। आप जानते हैं कोवैक्सीन आ गई है, और कई आने वाली हैं। हम अच्छी खबरें सुन रहे हैं और मन में उम्मीदें हमारे मन में पनप रही हैं कि पिछले वर्ष के बहुत से तनावों से हम मुक्त होने की ओर थोड़ा सा आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। लेकिन इसी के साथ मैं आपको ये भी याद दिलाना चाहती हूँ कि भारतीय परिवेश में अभी 15 दिन बाद उत्तरायण का एक समय आने वाला है। और इस 10 दिन बाद, अब तो 5 दिन बीत गए जनवरी के, तो उत्तरायण का एक समय आएगा जब हम कहते हैं सूर्य उत्तर की ओर बढ़ रहा है। और वो उत्तरायण की ओर जाना हम लोगों को धीरे धीरे लगातार नेचर की दिशा में, उत्तर की ओर यानी उन्नति की ओर, ऊपर की ओर बढ़ाने का एक संकेत देता है। तो वो भी एक आशावादिता की ओर मुझे ले जाता हुआ दिखाई पड़ता है। और थोड़ा सा और आगे देखते हैं तो भारत के अलग अलग क्षेत्रों में चैत्र महीने से मार्च अप्रैल के बीच से नए वर्ष की शुरुआत आती है। मैं कहना ये चाहती हूँ कि वास्तव में जीवन हमारा हमें उत्साहित होने के लिए बार बार नए नए अवसर देता रहता है। और इन्हीं अवसरों की सारी पूंजी का नाम जीवन है, इन्हीं अवसरों की पूंजी का नाम उत्साह है। तो मुझे ये लगता है कि द वॉरियर्स कम बैक जो है, वो वास्तव में हम सबके मन के भीतर के उस वॉरियर के लिए है जो कितनी भी तेजी से दबा दिया जाए या दबाया ना जाए तो अपने आप ही समय समय पर वो अवसाद से ढकता है। जैसे इस सच्चाई से भी हम इस सच्चाई को भी हम नकार नहीं सकते कि पिछला पूरा वर्ष बहुत तनावों का वर्ष था, तनाव से भरा हुआ था सभी दिशाओं में, आर्थिक दिशा में, स्वास्थ्य की दिशा में, सामाजिक संपर्कों की दिशा में, हम एक दूसरे से मिलने जुलने की दिशा में। इन सारे तनावों से भरे हुए वर्ष के बाद मनुष्य के भीतर का ये जो सिपाही है, ये जो वॉरियर है, वो कैसे कम बैक कर रहा है, इस दिशा में गीता हमारी क्या मदद करती है। फिर एक और छोटी सी बात कि आज का पिछले कुछ वर्षों से हम देखें, खास तौर से जब से ग्लोबलाइजेशन का एक समय आया है, तब से हमारी युवा पीढ़ी लगातार बहुत बड़े तनावों से गुजर रही है। उसके जीवन में हम अपने बच्चों को शुरुआत ही यहीं से करते हैं कि बड़ा कॉम्पिटिटिव वर्ल्ड है। तो ये जो कॉम्पिटिटिव वर्ल्ड है, जहां दौड़ना है और तनावों में ही आगे बढ़ना है, इस कॉम्पिटिटिव दुनिया में, और सारी दुनिया इन्हीं तनावों के बीच है, हमारा युवा तो इन्हीं तनावों के बीच जी रहा है। तो इन तनावों का एक बहुत बड़ा असर हमने ये देखा है कि पिछले इसी लंबे 20, 22, 25 साल के कालखंड में बहुत तेजी से हमारे युवा वर्ग को मानसिक संताप ने दबाया है। वो बहुत एक तरह से हम कहें कि हताशा में पड़ रहा है, सुसाइडल टेंडेंसीज डेवलप कर रही हैं उसको, वो छोड़ के भाग जाना चाह रहा है बहुत बार। तो वो युवा जिसको कि उत्साह से, जिसको शक्ति से, जिसको कर्म से भरा होना चाहिए, वो क्यों छोड़ के भागना चाह रहा है। तुरंत हमारे मन में आता है, अर्जुन का ख्याल आता है कि अर्जुन बिल्कुल इन्हीं मानसिकताओं से भरा हुआ था जब कृष्ण ने उसे गीता सुनाई, अर्जुन को गीता सुनाई श्री कृष्ण ने, और उसे वापस लौटाया, वापस कर्म की ओर लौटाया। तो किन किन दिशाओं में, मैं एक वाक्य में ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि गीता को श्री कृष्ण ने जब कहा और अर्जुन से कहा, लेकिन मैंने अपने जीवन में देखा है कि गीता जीवन के हर क्षेत्र को, मैं बहुत गंभीरता से और बहुत रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी के साथ कह रही हूँ कि जीवन के हर क्षेत्र में गीता बहुत मदद करती है, और आज की 21वीं शताब्दी की पीढ़ी को भी उतनी ही मदद करने में समर्थ है। मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि हमारे और पैनलिस्ट इस विषय के अलग अलग हिस्सों पे अपनी बात रखेंगे। मैं भी कुछ और बातें जरूर आपके साथ शेयर करूंगी। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Dr. Shukla. I think very well said. in this competitive world, all of us are warriors in this competition. So thank you very much for highlighting that aspect. Now, moving on, Mrs. Banerjee, how do you perceive a warrior's comeback?
Good afternoon. And to start with, I would like to thank the Chinmaya Mission for organizing this discussion on how the Gita can be an inspiring friend to all of us and how its teachings are relevant to us even today. So the warrior's comeback here, the warrior is obviously symbolic. It refers to anybody, I think, who is battling a tough and a difficult situation. And all of us, at some point or the other, have gone through difficult situations. And we are consumed by fears and doubts, and we don't know what to do. So basically, the warrior's comeback is to do with how one can maneuver through these situations, how one can actually come back on track. And the fact that the Gita had to be written, that in itself shows that Arjun himself was going through these doubts, and he needed somebody who could actually help him see things with clarity. And what these doubts and fears really do to us is that it actually immobilizes us. Sometimes we catastrophize situations. Sometimes we actually get totally stuck. We tend to not be able to take any action. And that becomes an impediment in our lives. A certain amount of doubt, a certain amount of fear is necessary. It's necessary for survival. Any active mind, any curious mind will have doubts, will have questions. Any intelligent mind will have some questions. So it's fine to have these. Certain amount of fears are necessary because if we don't have the fears, then we also do not really look after ourselves as much. And doubts also give us an impetus to move on, to put our best foot forward. But the problem happens when this becomes larger than life, when this becomes like an impediment in our routine daily lives, when these doubts and fears consume us and we don't know how to actually come out of the clutches of these doubts and fears. And to me, the warrior's comeback as a topic is very important because it shows how we can actually find a resolution and how we can actually find ourselves dealing with these. And what I would like to talk about later is how one can actually deal with these situations. So to me, the warrior's comeback is really anybody facing doubts, fears, difficult, tough situations, and trying to find a resolution, trying to find a path forward to keep moving.
Thank you, Mrs. Banerjee. I think that was really insightful. And I would really want to echo the fact that it's not just about the daily routine and the daily challenges, but it's also about how to deal with them. So thank you very much for sharing your insight. Moving on, I would like to ask Professor Shah and his take on today's topic.
Well, I think that the two speakers have already very well laid a platform. Now, to me and to the youth, when they look at, if you look at their interest, I think everybody is fascinated by a character who is braving the odds. Everybody is fascinated by the guy who is challenging the limits, and they are all inspired by somebody who breaks records. This basically how, and therefore the youth of today or for all times, I think if I look at the entire story, I mean, over the period of time, I think nothing much has changed. Emotions have remained the same. Challenges there might have been changes in the stories and the settings, but challenges have more or less remained the same. And we need to battle it out, and we need to fight, and we need to find our own ways. And this happens, and it always happens, whenever the odds are unsurmountable, as Dushyant Kumar says, हो गई है पीड़ पर्वत सी पिघलनी चाहिए, and अब कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए. So that kind of thing. So when there is an epitome of problem, when we have that kind of a problem, then something or the other has to come out. Now just look at the height of the odds. When we look at the setting of Gita, what is the setting? You have Arjun, everybody knows it. Sri Krishna is explaining certain things to him. But what is the setting? He's got everybody who inspired him, जिनको देख करके अर्जुन बड़े हुए, भीष्म पितामह, उनके आदर्श, गुरु द्रोणाचार्य, जिनसे उन्होंने शिक्षा पाई, इस तरह से पूरा family, they are all in front of him and he is supposed to battle them. I can't remember of any film also. The closest one was a celebrated film called Diwar. And Diwar, what do you see? That the odds are that Shashi Kapoor is supposed to fight with Amitabh Bachchan, catch him, his brother, and he was an established smuggler. And that was supposed to be tremendously odd, and then that was dramatized and things like that. But what is the drama? Look at the drama here. Arjun is pitted in front of people whom he idolizes. None of them have done anything wrong. And unke samne unko yudh karna hai. And that is absolutely unnerving. That is the setting of Gita. I think in terms of drama, content of drama itself, there cannot be a better setting of odds. And therefore, from there, in contrast to the kind of odds, जितनी भी विपरीतताएं, जितनी भी प्रतिकूलताएं, उसके सामने जब सुझाव आता है और सॉल्यूशन जब निकलता है, तो वो उसी परिप्रेक्ष्य में और उसी अनुपात में आता है. So the odds are tremendous. So what comes out of that is the Bhagavad Gita, which is the perennial truth. And it's an assemblage of philosophies down the ages. That is what I see within Gita. So, I'm once again drawing a comparison that if that was so many thousands of years ago, then even till date, the same kind of order there, maybe they've been diluted. We think that they've multiplied. They have not multiplied. The setting of Gita, it's impossible to have a setting of odds as equivalent as what we saw in Gita. And therefore, what comes out is eternal truth out of that. So that is the initial observation that comes across to me. And I think I'll rest my initiation here. And I like Devorshi, who's doing a wonderful job, and compliments to everybody who is a part of this session. I cannot agree with the previous speaker more than what they've said. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Shah. I think this is indeed what we are trying to unravel through the topic, Warriors Comeback. You've very nicely explained today's context and how we can still draw inspiration from the Gita, which had a separate context altogether. So thank you so much. So now we will start with some of the questions that we have in mind, which will help us understand and demystify Warriors Comeback even better. So I will turn on to Mrs. Banerjee and ask her, how does a personal battle fears and doubts in the context of life?
How does one deal with it, right? In terms of the fears and doubts that come up. So as I said earlier, a certain amount of fear and a certain amount of doubt is something that is natural and it can even be helpful. But it is a problem when it becomes an impediment in our routine lives. So what is really a fear? It's a perceived threat. It's something that we are seeing in our minds. And how do we deal with it? So what does it do? It often makes us feel like running away from a situation, hiding, freezing. And we are living the situation in the mind. And it often leads us to catastrophize the situation and we can't see choices in front of us. One thing I'd like to sort of say right at the start is, regardless of whatever the situation is, we have choices. And doubts and fears, when they become very large, make us lose clarity in a certain way. And so we can't really see those choices and see what will sit well with us and what we are comfortable with. So the same way doubts, nothing can be 100% right, 100% wrong. So we have to do a kind of a pros and cons situation. So when dealing with doubts and fears, one of the things I would say is to write down the pros and cons to give us a balanced picture and also help us see things from the outside and from the inside. What this essentially means is that from the outside, we can see the practicality of the choice. From the inside, from within us, we have to be able to see whether the decision that we are making or the choice that we are making is something that sits well with us, whether we are comfortable with it or not. And if we do this process in a structured manner, then we also get to see the long-term impact of whatever action we take or not take. So instead, but we have to take, we can't be frozen into some sort of inaction. So something we will have to do. And it also, the pros and cons while we are doing that, it also helps us to see resources that we have. So it gives us a sense of empowerment. It gives us a sense of clarity to deal with the situation instead of getting totally caught in its clutches. The second thing is, when we are dealing with fears, we have to deal with the evidence. Is it real? I mean, how much of it is actually on the ground? How much of it is in the mind? And we need to talk to people who may have faced similar fears. And once you talk to them, you get a different kind of a perspective also. Talking to people always gives a different kind of a perspective. And we see things, we see choices that we may not have seen earlier. And we also need to deconstruct our fear. Deconstruct in the sense that we need to see what is triggering it, what is feeding it, how are we feeding it? And if we were to deal with it, then what are the rewards that would come to us? What is there a sense of relief that we will feel? Is it a reality that we can totally ignore it and run away and not do anything about it? So that is one way of actually deconstructing the fear. The other thing is knowledge, to get as much information as possible. Then it makes us feel stronger than the fear in a certain way. So it reminds me of a story. There was a lady who was petrified of scorpions. And what she did is that she studied whatever she could on scorpions. And she just kept sort of, building her skill on the topic and getting as much information as she could. So ultimately, it was as if she knew whatever there was to know about scorpions, and she became an expert. And people would come to her for information about it, and that made her feel empowered. So one would also be trying and getting as much information about the topic. We also need to write what we are grateful for. When we are writing the pros and cons and everything, we also need to know what we are grateful for. And that also gives us a sense of comfort, maybe, and a sense of feeling that, okay, these are the things, these are the people, this is what I have with me to deal with the situation. Finally, definitely seeking help from anybody. I mean, if we look at the Gita, the whole thing is about a dialogue where Arjun is actually seeking help, because he knows in his mind, he knows he's there, he knows what the answers would be. He knows that this is a situation that is frightening him so much. And he turns to somebody who he can trust, who's a mentor, who he looks on as a guide, who perhaps has more experience in the field. And similarly, we need to seek help in that way so that we can actually get somebody else's input on somebody who knows us well, who knows the situation well, and can give us that wider picture. And one final thing would be that definitely do not listen to people who are always trying to fill us with fears or fill us with doubts, and just stay away. There's a very, very well-known story about the frog that was trying to climb the mountain with a lot of other frogs, and the other frogs gave up, and this one didn't. And why didn't it? Even though the people were saying you can't do it, because it was deaf. I mean, it's a very, very well-known story, but it is a story that we need to remember, that we need to stay away from people who are just feeding our fears. Instead, we need to deconstruct our own fear and understand it, and try and see that how are we feeding it? Because the fear can't exist unless we are really feeding it. But at the same time, as I said, we cannot be devoid of fear and doubt. That is not something which is a reality. That is something that will always be there. And a certain amount of it is helpful. A certain amount of it actually protects us. But too much of it, when it takes over our life, that is when the warrior becomes, I mean, whatever we are battling, the battle becomes overwhelming. And so these are the little tips or little things that we could do as the warrior to deal with that situation, to try and get a grip on the situation. So this is what I have to say right now.
Thank you, Mrs. Banerjee. I think that was quite a detail that we got to understand. You actually give us steps where we should first analyze whether what is in our mind, is it real or not? Then we have a choice. Always we have a choice. We write down the pros and cons. We take an informed decision. We also talk to others to get their perspective and be grateful for what we have. And I think the last point was fantastic, especially the deaf frog. I think we always resonate with that kind of an example because we do have a lot of negativity around and we need to turn deaf ears to them. So thank you so much, Mrs. Banerjee, for that.
Thank
Uh, I'll now quickly move on to Professor Shah. Considering you have been teaching two generations of students, we would like to know how do you differentiate between the students of today from that of students 2 decades back?
That's a good question. I mean, I have been teaching them since such a long time. In fact, Nirav has also been one of my students. Uh, I think that there has been a big transformation, as I can see. And I have not only taught in this college, I have taught in so many places. The big difference that I see is that there used to be students, the students of today have far too much distractions. So their attention spans have become shorter. That is for sure. The other thing that I've seen in terms of the way in which they learn, they have stopped studying from chapter 1 to chapter 2 to chapter 3 to chapter 4 to the end of the book. That's not the way they study anymore. The generation today gets a mobile phone of 60,000 rupees and they don't have to look at the manual and they start playing with it and they fidget with it and they figure out what it is. So that's not the way it used to be. In our times, even when we were students, even if I had bought something for 100 rupees, I would first read whatever instructions are there. So that's another big change. So this generation, no doubt about it, that they are smarter, attention spans are shorter, and they have various sources of learning. And the textbook or the teacher is certainly not the only source by no means at all. Now, coming to values, if we talk about the values of today and the values of the years before, you'll be surprised, but my observation is that the present generation is more honest than the earlier generations. I'll tell you how I believe that. I teach them law, and in law I teach them a case, and I explain the case with great details. And then I ask them, the previous generation would normally take sides with somebody who had played his cards so beautifully that the other person is helpless. Whereas the generation of today, when I tell them the entire story, they tell me that, sir, ultimately law should be fair. And if law is not fair and justice is not delivered, then that law is not something that we'll go with. This is largely, and I take an opinion poll in the class and I draw my conclusion from the opinion poll in not one section, but many sections. So the generation of today is definitely more honest. Attention spans are shorter. Sources of learning are many. But sources of learning, I mean, is information. And they keep confusing between information and knowledge. To my mind, knowledge is different from information. They think that information is knowledge, which is not correct once again. And the question of wisdom, if we talk about wisdom, that is a far cry. And that is where we have a role to play. We need to take to them the wisdom of all times. And that is why this kind of a discussion makes a lot of sense. This is how I would consider my role. And that is the way we need to take this forward. The wisdom is the part which is lingering. That is where we need to come in. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Shah. I think a very, very valid point. It just, brings me to a small, a movie which I watched long back. It used to say, the movie said peaceful warrior. So there was this little thing about knowledge and wisdom. And the way you put it today, the today generation, they have a lot of knowledge because they have a lot of source of learning. But wisdom is something that they are a little far off from. So there was this little dialogue between two individuals, and there's this master who tells this gymnast that do you know what is the difference between knowledge and wisdom? So he says what? So he he's basically looking into his shoes. So do you know that you need to keep your shoes polished? He says yes, but your shoes are dirty. So knowing does not help. You also have to keep it polished. So it immediately resonated when you said that wisdom is a far cry in today's generation, because we are exposed to such a lot of information with different social media platforms. We don't know what to do with that information, and at times just knowing doesn't help, and that's where probably we have a lot of work to do. So thank you so much for highlighting and identifying the difference. And I can't agree with you more about the shorter attention span, but yes, they are indeed very smart. They don't need those manuals. So thank you very much for those insights.
Thank you.
Dr. Shukla, having such a vast academic background, have you faced failure? And if yes, what was your mantra in fighting it back and overcoming the same?
दरअसल मैं बिल्कुल अपने व्यक्तिगत स्तर पर ही एक अपने जीवन की घटना बताती हूँ कि कैसे समय समय पर गीता ने मेरी मदद की है। और मेरा ये भाग्य था कि मैं बचपन से एक ऐसे माहौल में थी जहाँ मेरे पिताजी गीता लगातार पढ़ते थे, और वो ये कहते थे, मेरे पिता प्रोफेसर रहे थे, और वो ये कहते थे कि गीता उनको जीवन के हर कदम पर मदद करती रही थी। तो वो मैंने इनहेरिट किया था। और जब मैं अपने प्रोफेशन के लिए एक इंटरव्यू देने वाली थी, मैंने इंटरव्यू भी दिया, और वहां पर हमारे इंटरव्यू होने के बाद एक बहुत अच्छी रैंकिंग में आने के बावजूद कुछ इस तरह की घटनाएं पृष्ठभूमि में घटी कि उन लोगों ने मुझे एक अच्छे कॉलेज में, जहां मैं गेस्ट टीचर के रूप में पढ़ा रही थी और ऑनर्स कोर्स को पढ़ाने का मौका मिल रहा था, जहां सब लोग चाहते थे कि मैं वहीं पर आऊं, लेकिन वहां से मुझे हटा करके एक छोटी जगह पर डाला गया जहां मुझे छोटी क्लास को पढ़ाने का मौका मिलता। तो आप सोच सकते हैं, कम उम्र की मैं थी उस समय और बहुत हताश हुई, मुझे बहुत दुख लगा और लगा कि मैं अब कभी पढ़ाऊंगी नहीं, ये क्या तरीका है, क्या दुनिया सचमुच इतनी ही बुरी है। लेकिन ऐसे समय में गीता मेरे रेस्क्यू के लिए आई, और मुझे ये ध्यान आया कि गीता में जब वो एक बात बार बार कही गई है कि कर्म पर हमारा अधिकार है, कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन, हमारा अधिकार कर्म पर है, और उसका फल जो होता है, उसका परिणाम, वो सिर्फ हमारे लेबर पर, हमारे परिश्रम पर नहीं निर्भर करता, बल्कि और बहुत से उसके पीछे कारण हो सकते हैं। तो इस बात ने मुझे संदेश दिया कि ठीक है, मैंने परिश्रम किया था, और अब मुझे जो कुछ दे रही है प्रकृति, जो मुझे ईश्वर दे रहे हैं, या जो मुझे सिस्टम दे रहा है, मुझे अगर कहीं भी डाला गया है तो वहां भी अगर मैं बहुत अच्छी तरह काम करूंगी तो नेचर का जो एक कॉन्शियसनेस है वो मुझे अच्छी जगह जरूर ले जाएगा। और तब मैंने, फिर उसके बाद मैंने ये भी, जैसे मिसेस बनर्जी कह रही थी, कि अपने मन की हताशा को दूर करने की कोशिश में हम उन चीजों को तलाशते हैं कि हमारे पास पॉजिटिव क्या है। तो मैंने देखा, अच्छा तो है, छोटी क्लास को पढ़ाने में मुझे खुद ज्यादा नहीं पढ़ना है, तो मेरी वो पीएचडी जो बहुत दिन से लिंगर हो रही थी, मैं समय नहीं निकाल पा रही थी, तो मैंने देखा ऐसी जगह मैं पढ़ाने जाऊंगी तो मैं पीएचडी अपनी पूरी कर सकती हूँ, मैं अपने दूसरे एकेडमिक्स को विकास के लिए और भी बहुत से काम कर सकती हूँ। तो मैंने आपदा में अवसर तलाशने की कोशिश की, और ये अवसर एक तरह से गीता ने मुझे प्रेरित किया कि ये जो हम लोगों का विड्रॉल सिम्टम जो आज की युवा पीढ़ी जिससे बहुत ज्यादा टकराती है, कि अब मैंने बड़ी मेहनत की थी और मैं योग्य भी थी, लेकिन नहीं मिला मुझे, तो नहीं मिला तो मैं हताश होकर बैठ जाऊं और सारी दुनिया के प्रति मैं नफरत से भर जाऊं, सारी दुनिया से मैं चिढ़ूं और मैं पूरे सिस्टम से अकेली टकरा जाऊं। इसकी अपेक्षा ये ज्यादा अच्छा मुझे लगा कि मुझे जो मिला था, जो जहां काम करने का दायित्व मिला, मैंने ईमानदारी से उस काम को निभाने की कोशिश की। और फिर मैंने उस कॉलेज में जहां सिर्फ 11-12 मुझे हिंदी पढ़ाने का मौका मिल रहा था, वहां मेरे परिश्रम से, विभाग के सहयोग से और श्री कृष्ण की कृपा से, मैं ईश्वर का ही एक नाम मानती हूँ, उनकी कृपा से वहां हमने ऑनर्स खुलवाया, और ऑनर्स पढ़ाने के बाद मुझे अब एमए और पीएचडी तक को पढ़ाने का अवसर मिल रहा है। मैं आज सोचती हूँ कि अगर गीता ने मुझे वो एक छोटी सी चीज नहीं सिखाई होती कि मेरा अधिकार सिर्फ कर्म पर है, बाकी चीजें मुझे छोड़ देनी चाहिए, प्रकृति के लिए, समाज के लिए, अन्य लोगों के लिए बहुत से, क्योंकि हमारा जीवन, मैं ये सोचती हूँ कि हमारा जीवन पूरी तरह से हमारे हाथ में नहीं होता, क्योंकि मनुष्य स्वयं एक बहुत ही जटिल प्राणी है। मन, शरीर, चिंतन बहुत तरह के चलते हैं, साथ साथ हमारी समाज व्यवस्था भी उतनी ही जटिल है। हम उसको समझते ही रह जाते हैं, तो उसके समझने के अनुसार हम अपनी योजना बनाएं और काम करें, ये मेरे हाथ में है, हमारे हाथ में है, लेकिन परिणाम हूबहू वैसा ही आए ये हमारे हाथ में नहीं है। तो ऐसे समय में गीता ने मुझे उस हताशा से उबरने में बहुत मदद की थी। मैं बहुत बार अपने विद्यार्थियों को, हर बैच के विद्यार्थियों को ये बातें बताती हूँ कि आज आप मुझे जहां देख रहे हैं वहां मैं एक कई हताशाएं पार करके आई हूं, और आपके जीवन में ये हताशा हो तो आप कभी भी छोड़ के मत बैठना। जो कर्म करने का अवसर मिल रहा है वो कर्म जरूर करना, तो आपको आगे अवसर और मिलेंगे, क्योंकि कर्म सबसे महत्वपूर्ण है। तो ये जो वॉरियर के मन के भीतर की एक बात आती है कि छोड़ के बैठ जाना कोई उपाय नहीं है, मुझे लगता है कि ये एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात जो मैंने गीता से सीखी। धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, Dr. Shukla. I think sharing your personal story and how Geeta helped you to come out of it makes it more real. Because कभी-कभी हमें लगता है कि जब हम किसी को सुनते हैं, उनके लाइफ में क्या हुआ है ऐसा और उन्होंने उसको कैसे ओवरकम किया है। आई थिंक आपने बहुत अच्छे तरह से अपनी स्टोरी बताई, एंड आई थिंक दैट वाज रियली रियली इंसाइटफुल. थैंक यू सो मच. Now we'll quickly see a small video. So what we did was we interviewed a small group of youngsters and we wanted to know their idea about Gita. So it's a 45 seconds video. We'll all see that and maybe try and reflect upon it once we've seen the video. So Ketan, if I could request you to play the video for the next 45 seconds.
Ever been curious about the Gita?
Of course, I've been curious about the Gita, and not just the Gita, Indian mythology in general, because I'm a content writer and I feel that Indian mythology and the Gita, of course, have a lot of valuable stories and morals and lessons that we could learn. And I would always like to refer to mythology and, inculcate those references into my work.
Have you ever had any questions on the Gita?
Yeah, I've had many questions regarding what it's like, who is it about, what is it about, and the lessons I can learn from the Gita.
Would you like to share any experience with the Gita?
I've never read the Gita, so I don't have any experience with it or reading about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ketan, for showing that video. So we just heard some of the youngsters responding to some questions on Gita. I think I must say that these are very interesting responses. We had one of them who have heard about Gita and would like to know more and understand how the same could be relevant in their day-to-day life. Now, of course, these responses may not be most ideal ones that we look forward to, because we all think that people should know about Gita, youngsters should know about Gita, but that's not the reality. And this is the sad truth that we have in front of us. So in a similar note, so Dr. Shukla, we have a certain population in this young generation who are inquisitive about this knowledge. I won't say everybody is ignorant, but there are some, like the first response that we heard, that he is inquisitive about this knowledge. Hence, would like to understand from you, how do you think we should approach this audience, this particular set of people who have a little bit of an idea and who are inquisitive? How do we get across to them?
बहुत अच्छी बात आपने पूछी है, और मुझे ऐसा लगता है, क्योंकि मैं पिछले करीब 25-26 सालों से बिल्कुल इसी जनरेशन से हर साल डील करती हूँ, और हर साल यही युवा मुझे मिलते हैं, नए रूप में नए युवा। तो मुझे ये लगता है कि आज हम लोग फिर से, पूरा भारत ही फिर से एक सांस्कृतिक पुनर्जागरण की ओर बढ़ रहा है। इस बात का विश्वास मुझे हुआ अभी जो हमने एक छोटा सा वीडियो देखा, कि ये जो युवा है जो जानना चाहता है कि गीता है क्या और गीता में हमारी मदद कैसे हो सकती है, तो उसे मैं थोड़ा सा एक उदाहरण के माध्यम से कहूं। श्री अरबिंदो ये कहते थे कि भारत के वेद और उपनिषद के सब ज्ञान को मिला करके गीता में बहुत ही सुंदर तरीके से रखा गया है। तो मैं वहां से उनसे एक क्लू लेते हुए एक बात कहना ये चाहती हूँ कि हमारी जो यंगर जनरेशन है उसको इस बात का अनुभव करना चाहिए कि मनुष्य का पूरा शरीर, मनुष्य की योजना और प्रकृति, ये सब एक दूसरे के साथ बहुत सिंक में बने हुए हैं, बहुत एक दूसरे के साथ संतुलित तरीके से बनाए हुए हैं। और एक उदाहरण मैं देती हूँ कि हम सब अपने जीवन में किसी न किसी लक्ष्य का निर्धारण करते हैं, और अगर नहीं किया है तो हर युवा को उसके परिवेश, उसके या तो उसके माता पिता या उसके टीचर इस बात के लिए प्रेरित करें कि एक लक्ष्य का निर्धारण करना बहुत जरूरी है। लेकिन ये जो लक्ष्य है, हम जब कोई लक्ष्य देखते हैं, जैसे बहुत दूर तक हमारी आंखें हमें दिखाती हैं और बहुत दूर स्थित एक लक्ष्य हम तय कर लेते हैं, तो उस लक्ष्य तक पहुंचाने का कार्य हमारे पैर करते हैं। और लेकिन हमारे शरीर में पैर सबसे नीचे हैं और आंखें सबसे ऊपर बनी हुई हैं। जब हमारे पैर उस लक्ष्य तक हमें पहुंचा देते हैं तो आंखें और दूर का एक और लक्ष्य देख लेती हैं। इसका मतलब यह है कि हमारी संरचना ऐसी है कि हम कभी भी एक जगह जाकर के रुकने के लिए नहीं बने हैं। दूसरी बात तो इसलिए उस लक्ष्य का निर्धारण करना और उस लक्ष्य के लिए बिना थके बिना रुके लगातार कोशिश करना, ये गीता हमें प्रेरित करती है, हमें समझाती है। लेकिन इसके साथ साथ एक छोटा सा शब्द और गीता में बार बार आता है, संशय। क्योंकि मनुष्य, हम आजकल जानते हैं, आजकल आप देखेंगे समाज में, जैसे हमारे बचपन में मेडिकल चेम्बर्स हुआ करते थे डॉक्टर्स के, आज वैसे ही साइकोलॉजिस्ट जो हैं, साइकोथेरेपिस्ट जो हैं, उनके चेम्बर्स जगह जगह हो गए हैं। वो क्या सिचुएशंस हैं जिनके कारण आज हर स्कूल में एक काउंसलर की जरूरत पड़ रही है, जो युवा बच्चों को, किशोर लोगों को उनकी मानसिक समस्याओं से जूझने के लिए मदद करती है। ये जो काउंसलिंग पार्ट है, ये काउंसलिंग पार्ट गीता से भी हो सकता है, और इसलिए चिन्मय मिशन जैसे ये काम कर रहा है, वैसे ही और बहुत से लोगों को ये काम करना चाहिए। तो युवाओं को इनसे जुड़ना चाहिए, क्योंकि संशय जो होता है वो ऐसी चीज है जो आपको अपनी शक्ति से भी, अपनी शक्ति के प्रति कमजोर बना देती। आपको लगता है पता नहीं मैं कर पाऊंगा, नहीं कर पाऊंगा। इससे भी ज्यादा ये लगता है करने से क्या फायदा, परिणाम तो बुरा ही होना है, अच्छा रिजल्ट तो उसका ही होगा जो किसी का कुछ है या जिसके ये फेवर है, इत्यादि इत्यादि। लेकिन इस संशय को काट करके जब हम आगे बढ़ते हैं, तब जाकर के ये संभव हो पाता है कि हम कर्म करें और आगे बढ़ने की कोशिश करें। एक और आखिरी बात जो स्पेशली आपके प्रश्न का उत्तर है, कि मैं जो समझ सकती हूँ कि हम लोग कोलकाता जैसी मेट्रो सिटी में रहते हुए जिस यंग जनरेशन से मिलते जुलते हैं, या चिन्मय मिशन का ये प्रोग्राम जो यंग जनरेशन सुन रहा है या साथ में शामिल हो रहा है, ये जनरेशन हमारी सोसाइटी का बहुत ही क्रीमी लेयर है, बहुत अच्छा, जिनको जो जिनको बहुत ज्यादा खाने पीने के लिए संघर्ष करने की जरूरत नहीं है, ये वो वाला समुदाय है। और इस समुदाय की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी और भी बहुत ज्यादा है, क्योंकि गीता में एक और श्लोक आता है, कृष्ण कहते हैं, यद्यदाचरति श्रेष्ठस् तत् देवेतरो जनः स यत् प्रमाणम कुरुते लोकस् तदनुवर्तते। जो समाज का श्रेष्ठ वर्ग है, अब श्रेष्ठ वर्ग माने सिर्फ टीचर और प्रोफेसर नहीं होते, श्रेष्ठ वर्ग माने समाज का जो अच्छा संपन्न वर्ग है वो भी श्रेष्ठ वर्ग है। तो समाज का श्रेष्ठ वर्ग जो काम करता है, जो आचरण करता है, जैसे जीता है, बाकी जो पीछे वाला वर्ग है वो उनको ही फॉलो करता है, उनका ही अनुकरण करता है। मैं सोचती हूँ कि जो युवा वर्ग जिनको समाज ने और प्रकृति ने बाकी सुविधाएं दी हैं, वो अच्छे शहरों में हैं, अच्छी जगह जी रहे हैं, उनकी जिम्मेदारी और ज्यादा है कि वो गीता को समझें और गीता के अनुसार थोड़ा आचरण करने की कोशिश करें। जैसे पॉजिटिव रहें, सकारात्मक रहें, कर्म जरूर करें, उससे दूर ना हटें और कर्म करते हुए परिणाम के लिए बहुत ज्यादा ना सोचें। तो ये कुछ चीजें हैं जो मुझे लगता है कि उनके काम आ सकती हैं। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Dr. Shukla. I think once again, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts here. Very clearly that the example that you gave of the legs and the eyes, how the eyes keep looking at a different goal and how the legs help us to reach there. And very, very apt that the cream of the society needs to be introduced to Gita, and especially these individuals who already know a little bit about them and are inquisitive. So thank you very much. So second response we saw from the other young guy that we saw was talking about clearly indicates that we haven't done enough even to help them know what Gita is, because he really wanted to know who is it, who is there in Gita, what is it all about. So there is absolute ignorance in the second response that we saw. So I would like to ask Professor Shah, what do you think we need to do in order to make this knowledge available for the youth who are completely oblivious of the fact that there is something called the Gita which exists?
So I'll tell you this question, that how do you take this wisdom which is there in the Gita, or which is perennially there in the Holy Scriptures, how do we make it available and how do we reach it to the masses, especially the youth? That is your main question. I'll tell you, I'll just talk about Bhawanipur College itself as a case. Now, Nirav has been a student there and he will vouch for it, that there was nothing like what the college today stands for. How did we transform this? How did we arrive at this? And that is the lesson. That is how we take it to the youth. The moment we realize that we have this youth power with us and we are going to leverage it and we are going to make these people do a lot of work, because they are all eager to work. They are all warriors by nature. That is what the youth resembles. The moment we just, all that we need to do is guidance, and we just need to steer them. So the role of the institution is basically like somebody who steers the energy in the right direction. That's it. And therefore we motivated them into doing various different things and they grabbed it. I mean, like, I can tell you that there is nothing, no looking back. I mean, whatever responsibilities were given were completely done, and more people would come forward that, sir, we also want to do something. We also want to do something. That was the kind of thing. And that means that whenever there are crises in doing this, whenever they would face crisis, obviously there is a session when we would explain that this is not the way we do it like this. And you've not been able to do it because this is where your mistake is. And that is how the learnings of all time and everywhere it is interspersed and it goes deep into them. Lecture session doesn't work. They have enough lectures that are given to them. But action, and why that action did not see the results, when you explain them those kind of things, then that goes deep into them. And this is what I have seen, because they want to, by definition, they are warriors. They want to brave it. They want to face it. They want to learn it by doing it. Perfect. They are karma yogis as it is. Now let them do it. Give them an avenue so that they can explore and they can channelize their energies. In that, when they stop, when they get failure, support them, explain to them that how is it that they can go forward. And when they go forward, the institution as a whole transforms. And today it's not just Nirav. The person who is at the helm of us in our college is called Miraj Shah. He's also been my student. And he's the one who's steering the entire institution. And there is an overall transformation because we understand what is required from the people who will make it possible for them to acquire that, get that. And that's how the entire thing changes. I think that that's the best way to take it to the students, by getting them to do. I'll just share with you a small thing. We talked about tree plantation. Okay, let's get into tree plantation. One of the students said that, sir, can every student of the college plant a tree? Now it's far-fetched. Can every student, we've got more than 10,000 students. Can every single student, so can we have 10,000 tree planted? So we said, yeah, we can. I mean, there's nothing, no reason to say no. Because the entire, whatever the Holy Scriptures are saying is about being positive. The problem is that where do we do it? So we identified an island in Sundarbans, and that island, because of some storm, was ravaged and the trees were destroyed. And we said we go there and we plant 11,000 trees. So we took the entire band together, Jing Bang together, not one Sunday, but again and again and again. And we planted 11,000 trees, one tree for every student. So we've completely,
Wow.
looked at the whole plan. So this is how things can happen. I mean, we took the students, went door to door, campaigning and telling people that you cannot waste water. Here is a plumber that they had with them. This plumber is with us. In case any of your taps are leaking, we'll fix it right away at no cost. So while the tap is being fixed, the other students would give knowledge to the household that this is the way you should cut down on your water supply and wastage and things like that. The guy is listening because his tap is getting fixed. And the students are very happy that, sir, we were able to do 1,000 such things and it has costed us nothing. We are right now doing a project where there are 5 blind schools in Calcutta. They don't have textbooks for class 10. If they clear class 10, then they've got waiting jobs because of the government quota for handicapped. But the point is that how do they clear class 10 without textbooks? So what we did, we mobilized the students to record and make audio books for all the subjects. At least they can hear. And we've completed 3 subjects like that. We've already given it to the blind schools. We are going to complete all the 8 subjects given to the blind school. So all the blind schools will have audio versions of the books and they should hopefully clear their class 10. And once they clear class 10, they can get jobs because of the handicap quota. This is how they learn it. They learn it by doing it. We need to identify smart opportunities and it doesn't cost. There's no cost involved. It's just mobilizing the youthful energy in the right direction. I think this is the most effective method of taking ancient wisdom or all-time eternal wisdom to contemporary times. That's what I would say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think those examples were fabulous. I think it clearly resonates when we say at times action speaks louder than words. And you are so true and so right in pointing it out that lectures won't work with the current generation, and it would never, resonate in their minds that this is what we have to offer. But more we get them involved, I think we get the best out of them, and we get the ancient scriptures down to their normal daily life. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
So let us look at the third response. And here also, it clearly shows us a mirror about the existence of such an amazing teacher, which is the Holy Gita. So Mrs. Banerjee, let me turn towards you and take your views on how do you think we can project the teachings of Gita amongst the youth?
We've already had 2 very, very useful inputs on this. Maybe I could take it from the psychology aspect of it a little bit, just to, because there is a teaching involved in the Gita, and there are answers to questions. So of course, getting the youth involved or giving the youth, making them feel a part of the process of the work of being able to contribute, that's fantastic. And to be able to actually get them to understand that the teachings of the Gita is something that actually is relevant to them. Perhaps one way that we could do it is students have, we've been talking about doubts, fears, queries, dilemmas. They're going through all kinds of issues, relationship issues. They are going through, challenges on the work front, all kinds of issues. So maybe if the students of organizations or maybe a Chinmaya Mission, an organization like the Chinmaya Mission, if they could have a kind of a forum where students come up and they give in their questions or their whatever doubts or fears, and those who are well versed in the Gita can actually give them answers from the Gita to be able to help them and give them exact, maybe the verse or whatever, to be able to tell them that, look, there is this situation, we have a book, and this is not meant just for the older people who are spiritually inclined, who, that's the basic thing, that the belief is that when you get old, then these are the books you turn to, because that is the time for spirituality. So spirituality is very real in terms of actually being applicable in our daily lives at whatever age. And that could be made possible if perhaps answers could be given to them to their questions, their worries, their queries, their dilemmas by taking examples from the Gita and doing it. And the second thing that just came to my mind because we saw the video is perhaps organize some sort of a creative kind of a movement, where maybe ask them to make short clips like you just showed on maybe some lesson from the Gita and give a very short clip on it or do something creative with it and actually make a movie or write a story or whatever, whichever format, creative format they would like to use, or maybe even a painting. I'm not sure how, whatever, what formats could be thought of, but something creative by which if they could be given some teaching from the Gita, which they can actually bring forth to themselves and to all of us in this way. So maybe that would bring them into in a closer touch and make them go through the Gita and make it possible for them to actually understand that the Gita is not just a book which is to be put away and only read when you are spiritually inclined, but it is something that is a book that can actually help us in our daily lives. So that is one way. That's what I thought.
Thank you so much. And I think I can relate it very well, because today when we hear about Gita or listen to some talks, we generally don't see the youth talking about it. And I think you've put on a very important point where we need those youth who are aware of Gita, who are able to take help from Gita. They talking about Gita can of course make a larger impact in the youngsters themselves, because they would see them, okay, this is my group, this is my age group, this is my type of people, and they are also partying, they are also having same issues like relationships, and yet they are referring to something which is helping them out. So I think very, very valuable points from all of you. Thank you so much. And I think that little short 45 seconds video helps us understand what is the current situation that we have. And I won't say it is absolutely hopeless. It is very much hopeful, where people still want to know, people are inquisitive, and it's just that we need to add that fuel to the fire to help them realize and get more closer to the Gita. I think after that segment, we will move on with some more questions that we have in store for all of you. So I will start with Professor Shah. Well, in this journey of yours, tell us about your time when you faced challenges as a youth, and how did probably the knowledge of Mahabharata at that time, or maybe Gita, helped you in coping up with the situation?
Mahabharata generally comes across with a lot of characters, lots of incidents, and when we reflect and we try to look at everything together, it appears to anybody, it will appear as if everybody is doing their best, everybody is right in their own way, everybody is justified. So you take the case of Karna, then you understand that he is justified in his own way. You take the case of Duryodhan, take the case of Dronacharya, everybody is justified in their own way. Yet there is something, and therefore, say for example, when Krishna goes to Karna and says that, why don't you switch sides and come this side? And if you come this side, then maybe you being the eldest, you get the throne. So the way the Karna deals with that matter, that incident, you understand that, I mean, like, he is absolutely right in whatever he is saying. Krishna is justified in saying that. Karna is justified. So everybody is correct in their own ways. I mean, that is the way you look at the whole world. That when you have so many people around you, you do not get along with somebody else, that's okay. But the person is right in his own right. I mean, like, we start understanding somebody else's point of view. That is a very important thing. The moment you start understanding the other person's point of view, you try to arrive at solutions. You don't try to arrive, you don't try to just fight for the sake of fighting. Now, if you have to fight, you fight. But you understand that at the same time, the hatred part actually vanishes. You might be on other sides. We might still be fighting our own battles, but I don't hate you for that. I understand that you are there and you are justified in your own right. So that kind of an awakening, that kind of awareness is something that is very impressive. That is how the entire story of Mahabharata. And at a given point of time, you start understanding that is it that it is not possible that somebody could have imagined this entire story. It's not possible. It's far too big to be imagined. It is impossible. It's a colossus. It's a magnum opus. It can't be imagined like that. There is something in it. And at the same time, you understand that it's the same values that were there at the time of Ramayana. The same kind of values are there at the time of Mahabharata, and the same kind of values are going to be there at all times. Same kind of emotions, same kind of fights, same kind of challenges. And when it comes to my own personal life, as you asked the question, what were the challenges that I faced? We all face the same challenges. I remember as a youngster, we would stay in Bada Bazaar, and we had one small room in which about 5 or 7 of us, the entire family would live. And it was not possible to even study over there because there were too many people in the house. Papa would do his business there, mummy is doing the cooking there. And then I said that I have to find out some method. And I discovered that there was a place called Bada Bazaar Library. And Bada Bazaar Library would start at 6 o'clock in the morning and it would continue till 10 o'clock in the evening. And we could well go, and all the books were available there, and study there. That's how I started referring for one topic, not one book, but 3 or 4 books. So since those times, I got into the habit that one book is not enough. I need to read a couple of commentaries. If you today see on my table, and on my table, I have 2 of this. So this is the Gita, which was sent by Neeraj. This is another Gita from ISKCON. So the referring to more than one source of information became a habit. And that is probably the reason why I became a scholar, and maybe whatever I did my research. Today in the morning itself, I was talking about having a research cell and things like that with somebody. See, this is how the whole thing works. I mean, if I start cursing that what kind of circumstance I am put into, there is no place to study, and load shedding is happening all the time. How can I study like this? Then that is one way of doing it. The other way is you look around and you find maybe the window is closed, but the door is open. It's like that. And the bee doesn't understand. The bee just hits at the window continuously, tuck, 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 goes on. Doesn't realize that the other window is open. Just turn around and you can fly out without any problems. So that is something that occurred to me as a youth. And I think that has shaped my entire career after that. So this how the challenge was there. I always believe that there is, as I think Ms. Banerjee said, that there is always an option. We just need to try and explore a little harder. And that is basically what we need to all do. And we need to give these examples to the students also. So that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think very, very practical challenge you talked about. Probably in today's generation, we don't get to see such a lot of challenge in those days, we would be a lot of people in the family and we would have one room to ourselves, and you would try to study and all. And yet you made your way out and you had that choice to move out and figure out what you could do to study. So I think a very practical solution to a practical challenge that you face. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Dr. Shukla, on this note, I would really want you to help us understand how, of course, we've spoken about Gita and its relevancy. Where do you see its applicability today the most? Where do you see Gita's applicability the most in today's generation?
एक्चुअली मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जैसे मैं बार बार जो चीज देख रही हूँ आज के समाज में, सिर्फ यंगर जनरेशन ही नहीं, जो सीनियर्स भी हैं, इवन मेरी जनरेशन के लोग भी बहुत से ऐसे हैं, तो हम लोग अपने मानसिक तनावों से बहुत ज्यादा जूझते रहते हैं, जिसमें असंतोष बहुत होता है, थोड़ी सी ईर्ष्या भी है, दूसरे लोग बहुत आगे अच्छा कर ले रहे हैं, हम थोड़ा पीछे रह गए, तो थोड़ा ईर्ष्या भी रहती है। और ये जो मन का जो कष्ट है, वो ही हम वास्तव में हम लोगों को सुखी या दुखी करता है। तो मुझे लगता है गीता से मैंने मुझे जो समझ में आया कि वास्तव में सुख या दुख वो मीन्स में उतना नहीं होता है जितना हमारी मेंटल कंडीशन में होता है। हम अगर किसी चीज को सुख की तरह से सोचते हैं तो हम सुखी हो जाते हैं। एक छोटी सी कहानी ही है, बहुत फेमस है, बहुत लोग जानते हैं। एक आदमी एक गांव में जा रहा था और बहुत तेज धूप थी, बहुत परेशान था, थक गया था, और एक जगह उसने ये कल्पना की कि अगर काश यहाँ एक पेड़ की छाया होती और मुझे ठंडा पानी पीने को मिल जाता। और ऐसा हुआ अचानक कि सचमुच एक पेड़ की छाया हो गई और ठंडा पानी मिल गया। उसने सोचा बड़ा आराम मिला, पी करके, और उसने सोचा कि यहीं पे अगर मैं थोड़ा सा आराम कर लेता, लेटने को कुछ मिल जाता, अगर एक अच्छी सी झपकी आ जाती, तो उसने देखा अरे वो भी हो गया, और फिर वो घटना भी घट गई। अगले उसके मन का जो सोचना था, अरे अब क्या, अगर यहाँ पे कोई शेर आ जाए तो क्या होगा, और अगले ही क्षण वहां पर शेर आया और शेर ने जो करना था वो कर डाला। तो मैं इसको इस तरीके से सोचती हूँ कि गीता का जो आप जिस ड्रामा की ओर प्रोफेसर शाह इशारा कर रहे थे, कि जिस मैक्सिमम ड्रामेटिक सिचुएशन में गीता की रचना हुई है, उस सिचुएशन में गीता बाकी सारे आउटसाइडर परिस्थितियों से हटा करके अर्जुन के सिर्फ मन को फोकस करती है। और कृष्ण सीधे सीधे ये कहते हैं कि अगर तुम अपने मन के भीतर लड़ने को तैयार हो जाओगे तो फिर सारी शंकाएं दूर हो जाएंगी। तो मुझे ये लगता है कि मन जो है, क्योंकि बार बार हम लोग ये कहते हैं कि यन मनसा मनुते तन वाचा वदति, हम जैसा हमारा मन सोचता है हम वैसा ही बोलने लगते हैं। यन वाचा वदति तत्कर्मणा करोति, जैसा हम बोलने लगते हैं वैसे ही हम कर्म करने लगते हैं। और यत् कर्मणा करोति तदभि संपद्यते, और जैसा हम कर्म करते हैं हमारा जीवन वैसा ही हो जाता है। तो अगर हमें पूरे जीवन को बदलना है, पूरे जीवन के प्रति अप्रोच को बदलना है, तो अपने मन को बदलना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। और ये मन को बदलने में इसकी भूमिका बहुत महत्वपूर्ण लगती है मुझे गीता की। खास तौर से गीता में बार बार जो कृष्ण कहते हैं ना कि सब कुछ मेरे ऊपर छोड़ दो, मतलब कर्म करो लेकिन उस बाकी क्या होगा वो चिंता मेरे ऊपर छोड़ दो। कभी कभी मुझे लगता है बचपन में हम लोग कितने निश्चिंत रहते हैं, कितने खुश रहते हैं, क्योंकि बचपन में हम ये नहीं सोचते कि सुबह हमारा ये सब हो गया तो शाम को क्या होना है। हमने अपने बहुत कुछ छोड़ा हुआ होता है, अपने मम्मी पापा पे छोड़ के रखते हैं बहुत सी। तो हम अगर गीता की ओर देखें तो आज भी अगर हम छोड़ देते हैं किसी पर, और वो किसी कौन है, वो बार बार गीता कहती वो कृष्ण है। कृष्ण का अर्थ कोई एक गॉड या एक संप्रदाय से है ही नहीं। कृष्ण वो इटर्नल कॉन्शियसनेस, मुझे जो लगता है वो इटर्नल कॉन्शियसनेस है, जो कॉन्शियसनेस हमारे भीतर भी होती है, नेचर में भी होती है, और वो नेचर के बाहर, मतलब अगर हम पृथ्वी से जितनी बड़ी प्रकृति है सब में है। तो अगर हम उस कॉन्शियसनेस की गति पर, क्योंकि वो हमेशा मूविंग है, हमेशा गतिमान है, उस गति पर छोड़ देते हैं तो हम उतने ही खुश हो सकते हैं, उतने ही निश्चिंत रह सकते हैं, उतने ही हैप्पीनेस के साथ भरे रह सकते हैं जैसे हम बचपन में हुआ करते थे। तो मुझे लगता है कि गीता का ये एक बहुत बड़ा मैसेज है जो कहीं ना कहीं से हमें अपने भीतर डालना तो पड़ेगा, अपने भीतर पहले, और संभव हो तो अपने आसपास जितने ज्यादा युवाओं तक पहुंचा सकें, जितने ज्यादा लोगों तक पहुंचा सकें। तो ये गीता का एक बहुत बड़ा पावरफुल मैसेज हमारे जीवन को बदल सकता है। शायद मैं अपनी ओर से तो फिलहाल यही कह सकती हूँ, क्योंकि यहाँ मैं सीख रही हूँ। मैंने इन दोनों पैनलिस्ट से इतनी बातें सीखी हैं आज कि मुझे यहाँ शामिल होके भी बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है। धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, Dr. Shukla. I think आपने बहुत अच्छी बात कही कि we have to focus on the quality of thoughts that we have, because Gita does apply to a lot of, because everything comes from the mind, everything, the source is the mind, and that's where we start, developing. And that small example in the story that you shared, that whatever we wished, it happens. And so your thoughts are so powerful that if we are able to manage our quality of thoughts, I think our life will be much better. So thank you so much for sharing that. Mrs. Banerjee, sometime back you were referring to, asking for help, or asking somebody, or talking to somebody when you are in that situation where it impedes your daily routine. So my question to you here is, what are your views in terms of asking for help, and who are the people that we should be taking help from during those situations where we are in a turmoil, where we are in a confused state of mind?
Yes, I did talk about asking for help when we were talking about writing the pros and cons and getting to speak to somebody to help us. And as we've seen, the Gita itself, I mean, Krishna is the mentor. So we have an example there with us, right there with us. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Very often people I mean, I would take even at a different level, going to a counselor, going somewhere. Earlier, it was seen as a kind of a questionable, people would hesitate. But today, a lot of those things have got reduced. So asking for help is necessary very often, because handling a difficult situation alone can become overwhelming, and there are confusions in our mind which we cannot get clarity with. And if you speak to somebody who you trust, speak to somebody with greater experience, speak to somebody who knows you well, depending on the subject that you're talking about, the person knows the subject well, then these are all areas where speaking to another person actually helps you clarify your own mind. You get a lot of inputs, you get a lot of different ideas, perspectives, and often you get a lot of support and courage, which by oneself one can feel, feel a little frightened and feel confused about whether one should do it or not do it. And just talking to somebody else, having a dialogue, putting your own views across, getting the person's views, and until you feel convinced yourself about something, it's very difficult to do something unless internally you are convinced about it. To be able, one can do it, once, but to be consistent with something, you need to be convinced yourself. So a dialogue with a person who can help you in that way, who you trust, whose knowledge you value, and whose input you value, then that can also help you actually become more convinced, become surer of what you want to do. Apart from the fact that you get a much wider perspective on things, new ideas that come into you. So certainly asking for help is a very, very essential thing. Even as I said, dealing with fears. Somebody who's gone through a similar experience, like we heard personal experiences, today in our talk, that becomes a real, as you said, it becomes real for us, because if somebody else has gone through it and is talking about it, then it becomes real for us. So even somebody who has gone through a fear, tackled a situation, or gone through a situation like that, or has handled fears like that, doubts like that, and what have they done about it? How have they been able to deal with it? That becomes a clue for us, a tip for us, and it becomes real for us. And we also can be convinced about it. So we need to be convinced to be able to actually take action on whatever we are doing on a consistent basis. So asking for help, I think, is very, very important. But we need to know who to ask for help from. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Banerjee. I think this is very important in today's generation, where we really hesitate in asking for help. At times we feel that, what will people think, or how embarrassed I would be to ask, for help from people. And the whole world starts judging you. But I think it's more and beyond how people judge you. It is more about the support and courage that you at times need from the other person. They help you to realize what is inside of you. And it's not necessarily that they will tell you, but they will only get you to bring out the best in you. So I think very, very valid point. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now I would like to again turn towards Dr. Shukla. Well, looking at your profile that you have traveled across the world, if I have to ask you, what are the common behaviors you would have noticed in respect to mental well-being, and how do you think this can be addressed in today's context?
जो आज के समय में आते जाते हुए लगातार जो बात मेरे ध्यान में आती है, जिस पर मेरी नजर पड़ती है, कि जितना ज्यादा हम तकनीक की दृष्टि से एक दूसरे से जुड़ गए हैं, यानी आज कहते हैं हम ग्लोबल विलेज, तो पूरी दुनिया एक दूसरे से जुड़ गई है और हम दूर से दूर की खबर पा जाते हैं। लेकिन ये जो जुड़ना है, ये जुड़ना बहुत ऊपरी लेवल पर होता है, जैसे सिर्फ जो कहा कि जान पहचान भी नहीं, जान तो लेते हैं, पहचान नहीं होती है, नॉलेज मिल जाता है, लेकिन उस नॉलेज के भीतर की फीलिंग, जैसे एक छोटा सा उदाहरण मैं आपके सामने रखूं कि आज हम दुनिया के बहुत दूर के किसी कोने में हो रही घटना या दुर्घटना को सुन लेते हैं, सुनते ही, लेकिन वो हमारे सामने एक न्यूज के रूप में आती है और न्यूज उसको सुन लेने के बाद हम एक क्षण के लिए भी हमारे मन पर वो पहुंच नहीं पाती। जैसे एक बहुत बड़ा भूकंप ही हुआ, कुछ और दुर्घटना हुई, तो वो हमारे मन तक उसकी संवेदना का असर नहीं पहुंचता और तुरंत ही दूसरी न्यूज आती है और हमारे सामने से स्क्रीन बदल के चली जाती है। जबकि जब दुनिया थोड़ा सा कटी हुई थी, दुनिया तकनीक की दृष्टि से जुड़ी नहीं थी, तो एक गांव में या एक मोहल्ले में किसी एक व्यक्ति का देहांत होता था तो दूसरे पड़ोस के घर उस समय तेज आवाज में सिनेमा के गाने नहीं बजाते थे, तेज आवाज में सिनेमा नहीं देखते थे, क्योंकि सबकी संवेदना एक दूसरे से जुड़ जाती थी। मैंने जब देखा आज के समय में कि एक मजेदार बात यह है कि जितने ज्यादा डेवलप्ड कंट्री या सिटी में मैं गई हूं, उतनी ज्यादा वहां मैंने ये चीज देखी है कि हर व्यक्ति अपने मोबाइल में घुसा हुआ है, अपनी मोबाइल की ओर लगातार देख रहा है। वो सोच रहा है मैं पूरी दुनिया से जुड़ा हुआ हूं, लेकिन एक्चुअली वो अपने पड़ोस में खड़े बिल्कुल साथ सट कर खड़े या बैठे हुए व्यक्ति से भी जुड़ा हुआ नहीं है, क्योंकि कभी कभी बिल्कुल बगल वाले आदमी को हो सकता है कोई असुविधा हो रही हो, उसकी सांस फूल रही हो, कुछ हो रहा हो, लेकिन जो व्यक्ति मोबाइल में लगातार लगा हुआ है उसको पता भी नहीं चलता कि मुझसे ये सट कर खड़ा हुआ व्यक्ति तकलीफ में है। तो मुझे ये लगता है कि तकनीक ने इतना ज्यादा विस्तार जो हमें दे दिया है, और उसके कारण तो नहीं कहूंगी, लेकिन हाँ एक उसका हिस्सा जरूर है कि हमारी संवेदना से जुड़ना जो मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट था वो हमसे छूटता चला जा रहा है। ऐसे समय में मुझे ये लगता है कि कृष्ण जब ये कहते हैं, आप देखेंगे पूरे महाभारत में बहुत से ऐसे प्रसंग आए हैं जहां कृष्ण अपना वास्तविक रूप दिखाते हैं। एक बार वो अपनी माता को दिखाते हैं जब मुंह खोल देते हैं और उनको मुंह के भीतर में उनको पूरे ब्रह्मांड का रूप दिखता है। अर्जुन को वो अपना जब पूरा समझा के भी अर्जुन नहीं मानते, तब कृष्ण उनको अपना रूप दिखाते हैं। यानी ये जो रूप है, मुझे ये लगता है कि हर व्यक्ति की संवेदना में ये बात जाए, उसके सेंसेस में भीतर तक घुसे कि मनुष्य के रूप में हम सब एक हैं। और ये जो हमारी फीलिंग है, इस फीलिंग को एक दूसरे से अगर हम जोड़ कर रखेंगे, तब ये होगा कि हमारे बिल्कुल साथ का कोई व्यक्ति भी, जैसे आज क्या होता है कि हमें हमारा फेलोर तो कष्ट देता है कि हमने बड़ी मेहनत की थी, ये एग्जाम दिया था और हम पास नहीं हो पाए, तब हम दुखी होते हैं। लेकिन कोई और हार गया है तो हम बस एक खबर से सुन के छोड़ देते हैं। हमें ये नहीं लगता कि हम जाकर के जरा उसके मन को भी समझाएं या उसके हार जाने पर हम भी दुखी हों। मैं ये सोचती हूँ कि मनुष्य के रूप में जो मैंने एक सबसे बड़ी मनोवैज्ञानिक स्थिति जो अब देखी है, वो ये है कि हर व्यक्ति बहुत अकेला होता चला गया है। जैसे जैसे हम ये देख रहे हैं कि हम सब बहुत जुड़ गए हैं, कहते हम यही हैं कि हम कर लो दुनिया मुट्ठी में है हमारी दुनिया, लेकिन वास्तव में हम बिल्कुल अकेले हो जाते हैं। और मनुष्य अकेले होके अच्छी तरह से उसकी क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ अकेले की अपेक्षा कुछ ज्यादा लोगों के साथ बेहतर होती है। और ये ज्यादा लोग कौन हो सकते हैं? जहां तक वो अपना मन पहुंचाता है। और मन को पहुंचाने में ये हमारे ग्रंथ, बहुत से ग्रंथ आते हैं। गीता एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण ग्रंथ है जो ये इस बात की बस एक ही बात बार बार कहे कि जो प्राण मेरे भीतर है, जो आत्मा मेरे भीतर है, वही आत्मा मेरे इस बगल वाले के भीतर है, वही आत्मा इस काले गोरे श्वेत अश्वेत दुनिया के किसी दूसरे व्यक्ति के भीतर है। अगर हम ये समझ पाते हैं, मुझे लगता है कि इस बात को मन के भीतर समझाना, बिठाना और खुद इस बात का अनुभव करना, ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू सो मच डॉक्टर शुक्ला। आई थिंक आपने बहुत बहुत एक इम्पॉर्टेंट बात कही। हम लोग सब मोबाइल में ही बिजी है, हमको लगता है हमारे पास सारी इन्फॉर्मेशन है, बट वी आर बिकमिंग मोर ट्रांजैक्शनल एवरी डे. We feel that we are connected with the world, but we are actually becoming more like machines, where the feelings are being bereft of, and we are spending time all by ourselves. And we feel that, you know, spending time on ourselves is great because we are alone, we are choosing to be alone, but actually we are so heavily dependent on mobiles and technology that we've actually stopped speaking to ourselves, our inner self that we talk about. So thank you so much once again for highlighting these aspects. uh, coming to some last few questions. So, Mrs. Banerjee, how important do you think is knowledge and action? Because you did, cover the knowledge and action bit when you spoke initially. Can you tell us that whether it can survive on its own or it has to have a very, very strong partnership in itself?
What I would like to say is knowledge by itself, if we are very knowledgeable about something and we do nothing with it, then what does it really mean? And or we are taking a lot of actions, but we don't have enough knowledge about it to be able to take it. So obviously it has to be a marriage between the two. The knowledge and action have to go together. I mean, one thing is that we cannot be in a position of inaction. So again, going back to the Gita, one of the things that the importance of performing the role duties that comes up. It need not always be very pleasant. That is something that is tough, that can be put us in a difficult situation. But it's a question of having the skill to do something, having the knowledge, and having to perform the duty that is expected of us and that we need to, because the role demands it. And we have to be obviously in a way comfortable at one level or convinced about it at one level to be able to take the action. And it must not really sort of go against what we can actually sit with within our own minds. That's why the internal comfort level to be convinced about something and the dialogue that is necessary with maybe a mentor to understand that these certain things need to be done. So knowledge is that complete knowledge from every aspect, and the skill that we have, the action that we need to take. Both of them definitely go together. And we also know that there is no real, it's not as if all the doors get closed. Sometimes we take an action hoping for a certain result, but that doesn't necessarily always work out that way because there are certain things which are not in our control. So it does not mean that everything sort of stops. Things move on. There are other choices after that. So we need to know that we always have a choice. Even if something does not work out the way we had hoped, there will be choices that will come up even after that. And we need to continue. It's a movement. It's a continuous movement. And so we need to be in that movement, be a part of that flow. And we need to have the knowledge, and we can only take the knowledge, the action if we have the knowledge, and only having the knowledge and not doing anything with it is also a waste sometimes. So we need to be able to marry the two. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this reminds me of one of Gurudev's quote where he says, do not react, but act. And I think it's very apt what he meant by saying that when we react, we don't have much thought given to it. We don't use our knowledge to respond. It is more of a stimulus that we respond to. But when we act, we generally gather the knowledge, we take a pause, think what we have in ourselves, and then take an informed decision to execute the action. So I think very well put across. Thank you so much. We are coming quite close to the exciting afternoon, and I would like Professor Shah, who has extensively worked with the youth in his life, I would want you to tell us, what do you think the youth of today need the most? And of course, we've discussed a lot about how to engage them, how to engage their thought process, how to engage their energy, and what do they need the most, and how and what can we do to provide them with that?
I think there are challenges and opportunities all the time. And if we are talking about what is it that they need the most, I think we have more or less been able to funnel it down to a situation where I think we all understand that they need to have more faith in themselves. This happens all the time. I mean, I don't think that it's just today that the youth require it. I think that these kind of crisis moment would have come even earlier, and that time also they required to have self-belief. I think that time also they required to, engage themselves in a lot of things that Ms. Banerjee has already talked about. So I think it's the same thing. I mean, that is basically what the youngsters all the time will require. You see, all that they require, to my mind, they require a bit of patience, which is very important. which is going out because they believe in instant solutions to every problem. They require to understand that everything that you do not see a result of does not mean that the result is not going to come, because far too quickly they are seeing cause and effect happening. I mean, they see very limited time between cause and effect. They are seeing that all the time happening, that here is the cause, here is the effect. That's what they're able to see. But they don't realize, and we've got to expose them to more and more of these kind of things, that it takes a lot of time for the cause to mature and the effect to come. That kind of thing they have to, that gradually they have to believe in giving it time. I mean, that is one thing which has to be done. They are all beginning to live for themselves, everybody. And if the other counterpart, the friend, doesn't respond the way he wants or she wants, in that case they are willing to, okay fine, why will I call up, that kind of thing. And that is the beginning of the closure of the relationship and those kind of things. So I think basically patience. It's not about action. Action is there, there is a lot of action. You are talking about react, act. I would say proact. They are proactive. A lot of them are proactive. But the point is that even after being proactive, not being able to get the result is what frustrates them. And that is where we need to tell them that you don't have to get frustrated. There are times it happens. You just let some time. I think patience is what is very important. And that is where I think we as elders need to explain to them. And they don't like this word patience at all. They don't believe in this word called patience. They say, why not now? That is basically what they want. But then over a period of time, they gradually, I'll just share this with you, very interesting incident. And I do this all the time with my students. I mean, like we had a crisis situation. There was somebody who wanted to resign. And obviously the person resigns because there is a better option elsewhere. So that's the reason why the person is resigning. And I picked it up with my students, without giving the names. I said, there's somebody is resigning. Why? Because there is a better option. Now this one is a young chap. Obviously, there is a better option monetarily and otherwise. That's the reason why. Now the challenge is that I need to retain the person back in my college without offering a higher salary. How do I do that? So you see, now that is now intriguing. Now they've come to the end of their wits. Arey Bapre, how do you do that? The person is leaving because that person's got a better option. Now you want to retain, and I tell them that now I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this without any doubt. After a week, you guys have to come and meet me. And then you discuss this matter that, sir, how did you do it? I'm going to make sure that the person doesn't leave. Ye guarantee hai. And I'll do it. After a week, you come and ask me that, how did I do it? And after a week, when they come, many of them don't come. So those who don't come, I tell their friend that, look, this is what they want: second-hand information, because I'll share it with you. They'll ask you and you'll explain whatever I did. Do you think that it's the same thing as what I went through and I explained it to you? Is it going to be the same? It's not going to be the same. And they have given it up because they've got other things that they think is more important, etc., etc. But this was very important. They understood the importance of it. Acha, when I share the entire experience, the guys who understand, sir, you really did a fantastic job. I just don't stop there. I said that you go home and your father is a businessman. Share this information with your father, that this is what we learned in college today. And your father, see your father's reaction. So you have somebody else once again giving a testimonial that this is brilliant. I mean, what you've learned today is human resource management, indeed.
Yeah.
And that is how I try to mobilize them. And then this kind of message spreads. And then I give them, there are a lot of things that can be done. I explain to the other person that what are the other options that you can do. I explain to the person that, do you understand that being in an institution like this, you could be helping people all across the world. And when you are helping students all across the world, there is a platform like this, which we have, where your remuneration for the work that you do will come in dollars. And then the person starts saying, what do you say? Okay, yes, this platform we already have. But you cannot do it because you are too young and you need to have so many years of work X so that I can put you across to the global counterparts. I can't do it for you. You'll have to wait for 1 more year. Otherwise, I can't do it. Now the person understands, oh my God. And I then give the name that these are the people who are already doing it and they are getting paid. Ask them. But they never told me. I said, who is going to tell you? They will not tell you. Nobody will say that this is the way I am getting paid. But you will get to know about this only after you've completed 1 more year. You've just finished 2 years. You need to finish 3 years for this. So hang on. And those are the kind of cards that you open up. And then I tell the boys that, listen, you waited for 1 week. That 1 week of patience is what has fetched for you this knowledge. Your friends did not wait for 1 week. They did not get this knowledge. So patience will pay. You have to wait. And I'm not going to share this with you unless I've sorted this matter out. If I have not sorted the matter out, what do I go and tell you? And here is a case of somebody who had almost confirmed the next appointment. And he just said that, sir, I'm giving you my notice period letter. Sir, I'm serving my notice period. That's it. I said that, listen, this is what it is. Now reconsider. And I solved the problem. I mean, I'm just sharing. This is the way you've got to take the generation today. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, how do you take the generation today? Like this. Now, for all you know, in ancient scriptures, you will find n number of praises for a virtue called patience. There cannot be any denial of that. And I think that sums up a lot of things. I mean, that's all that, I thought that I'll share this with you. I should not have, and good that I've not released the name of the person concerned. Thank you so
No,
much.
absolutely. It's really been a pleasure because, and this is what happens when you have a forum like this and when people from different walks of life share their experience and share their thought processes where you have worked in a vast manner with youth. I think it really resonates as to what do we really want to look forward to in the future. So I think it was a fantastic opportunity for me to connect with all of you. I have to thank Neerav Bhaiya because he literally pushed me into this. We were just having a chat over a particular over a cup of coffee, and this came through. And I'm so happy that I was able to conduct this because
See,
there
I'll
is
tell you,
such a lot.
Devarshi, can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
See, on a serious note, I have already told Neerav earlier also. In fact, one gentleman from the mission has also visited the college and he has spoken to the students. But more and more, we need to identify projects. We need to identify projects. We need to identify areas of research. As college students, this is what will engage them. And this is basically, and I'm open. I told Nirav also that I am open. We can have such thing from the college itself. We can take the initiative. There's no harm in that. And I think we should, that is basically, it's not about Gita per se. It's about how do we make the youth more responsible and responsive and more aware and more dynamic, etc. etc. यही तो हम चाहते हैं. तो इसके लिए यदि कुछ भी हम लोग कर सकते हैं, सब कोई मिल करके कर सकते हैं, तो बहुत अच्छी बात है. मैं तो दोनों पैनलिस्ट से ये कहूंगा कि आप भी सोचिए हम लोग क्या साथ में कर सकते हैं. भवानीपुर इज मोर देन ओपन. रिसर्च के लिए भी अपने तैयार है. कोई प्रोजेक्ट भी हो तो आप सुझाव दीजिए और हमारे साथ में जुड़िए. हम इसीलिए इस फोरम में आए क्योंकि अच्छे लोग से जुड़ पाए.
एक चीज और मैं भी साथ में जोड़ना चाहूंगी कि पिछले दिनों कुछ समय से मैं भी देख रही हूँ कि ये जो हमारा यूथ है ना, वो अपने जो पुराने ग्रंथ हैं और अपना जो विजडम है एक्चुअली उसकी ओर अट्रैक्टेड हो रहा है. वो खोज रहा है कुछ. तो अगर वो खोज रहा है और उसकी तलाश हमारे आपके जैसे लोग पूरी कर सके कुछ हद तक, उनको मिला करके, तो अच्छा होगा. बहुत अच्छा एक काम हो सकता है. तो
एकदम. अभी मैं आपको बताता हूँ देवर्षि जी एंड अदर पैनलिस्ट, मैंने कल ही ये बात की. हमारे यहाँ एक डांसर आई थी, क्लासिकल डांसर. तो मैंने ये कहा कि आप कंपेयर करिए महाभारत से या पुराने प्राचीन जो भी अपने पास में भंडार पड़े उसमें से निकालिए और सिमिलैरिटीज ढूंढिए मॉडर्न टाइम्स के साथ और तब की, और दोनों को कंपेयर कीजिए कि कुछ भी बदला नहीं है. परिस्थितियां अपने को लगती है बदल चुकी है, कुछ भी नहीं बदला है. वही सब कुछ है, वही ज्ञान है, वही विजडम है, और उसको आज की तारीख में हमको शेयर करना है, समझना है. दैट इज बेसिकली व्हाट वी हैव टू डू. और ये मैंने उनको कहा कि आप अपने डांस के माध्यम से हमारे ऑडिटोरियम में शो करिए और हमारे बच्चे देखें. कुछ ना कुछ ऐसा करना होगा और कहीं से तो शुरुआत करनी होगी. मैंने कहा कि शुरुआत करने के लिए हमारा प्लेटफॉर्म है ही अवेलेबल. बाकी लोग एक बार यहाँ से शुरू होगा तो बाकी सब जगह भी चला जाएगा. कोई तकलीफ नहीं है. मैं आप सब भी कहता हूँ, इस प्लेटफॉर्म से भी कहता हूँ कि हम तो अच्छे लोगों से अच्छे प्रोजेक्ट के लिए वेट करते हैं. आप लेकर के आइए, अपने इसको आगे जरूर ले जाएंगे.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think it was a very, very exciting afternoon. हम लोग को बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिला. मेरे को तो especially सीखने को मिला आप सबसे. And I think we put across a fantastic some points which is relevant in today's generation, because what we feel is while we try to engage the youth today, it's also important for us to think in what language do they understand Gita, and how can we, reflect these learnings into their lives through different actions, through different project. So I think it's been a fantastic afternoon, and I would like to conclude with one of the messages that Sir Albert Einstein said once he read the Gita. He said that when I read the Bhagavad Gita and reflect about how God created universe, everything else seems so superfluous. I have made the Bhagavad Gita as the main source of my inspiration and guide for the purpose of scientific investigations and formation of my theories. So just imagine,
Amazing.
it is unfortunate that at times we have to hear it from stalwarts who are outside our country to tell us that, okay, this is the treasure that you have. At times you don't realize the potential that we have in ourselves. But what a line said by Sir Albert Einstein, who's been in the scientific research for such a long time. And when he says something like that, of course it makes a huge difference to the entire crux and the content of the Bhagavad Gita. So with that, I would like to thank all of you for sharing, sharing your time and having a fantastic conversation here. It was literally an eye-opening for a lot of us in different aspects, especially in today's context. And I thank you all for participating.